Now, some people think that, that video games are just for little kids. And some people think that video game music is nothing more than a bunch of little simplistic bleeps and bloops. And some people think that video games are the cause of violence. That guy there said, kill those people. That's what We're going to have a good crowd tonight. I think so. But tonight we're going to prove to the world why video games have become the entertainment of choice for the 21st century. Thanks to a lot of people in the room here tonight. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Come on. Gamers unite. Be proud. Be proud.
Well, my favorite work is the stuff I did for Earthworm Jim, because it was, you know, very funny and different, and I really had full control of the project. And when we were creating the game, it was just like 12 of us who would just go to work every morning trying to make each other laugh. So, and I think that shows through in the finished product as well, the whole game itself. And we didn't really have a game design. We didn't have anyone kind of watching over us. We were just, you know, we had a deadline of like 9 months or whatever it was, and we were just making a game that we all thought would be funny. So that was probably my best experience, and I think some of my best work. But from a more serious side, I liked the stuff I did for Advent Rising, which wasn't a big commercial success, the game, but the music was you know, was kind of well known, and I wrote it as an Italian opera. So I took 2 years to write this, you know, massive piece of music. So I think the soundtrack sold more than the game did, but. Yeah, so Video Games Live is all the greatest video game music of all time, played by a full symphony and choir. But what makes it really special and unique is that everything's completely synchronized to massive video screens and rock and roll lighting and special effects and stage show production and interactive elements with the crowd. So I kind of like to describe it as having all of the power and emotion of a symphony orchestra, but combined with the energy and excitement of a rock concert, mixed together with all the cutting edge visuals and interactivity and technology and fun that video games provide. So when I first, I've been a video game composer for over 25 years, and when I first created Video Games Live over 13 years ago, my goal was I wanted to prove to the world how culturally significant and artistic video games have become. But I also wanted to help usher in a whole new generation of young people around the world to appreciate the symphony, appreciate the arts and the orchestra. So yeah, it's been quite a ride the last 13 years. We do about 40-50 shows a year all over the world, and played to over 1 million people, and 4 albums out. So yeah, it's been pretty amazing to see it go from just a dream to, you know, kind of a big reality. Yeah, I mean, in the sense of we create art as composers, you know, as music composers, we create art. So in that sense, I guess, an artist, you know, you can be a recording artist or a live performance artist. So I think, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Level 4 was released a few weeks ago, And the thing on level 4 is, now that we've done 4 albums, we're really starting to get into some stuff that, you know, people might not typically think that they would hear on a video game album. For example, you know, our first couple albums, it was Mario and Warcraft and Zelda and, you know, all the kind of the main themes of all those things, Halo, you know, Castlevania, Mega Man. But now that we're into kind of level 4, you know, we're doing, one of my favorites on the album is this amazing version of Donkey Kong Country. We're doing, although we did Zelda on level 4, but we did kind of a Zelda Lullaby and Skyward Sword kind of thing. We did Final Fantasy VI Opera, the opera aria, but we kind of do it as a remix with the orchestra. So it's kind of like got drum beats and bass behind it with a symphony. You know, things like Uncharted and Assassin's Creed, Cave Story, League of Legends. You know, we've done Metal Gear Solid in the past, but this time we did Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, with a big orchestra, an amazing blues singer, and so yeah, I mean, we're really able. Earthworm Jim, a game that I worked on, you know. So as the albums progress, you know, we're kind of getting into some really kind of, you know, specific stuff now, which really the hardcore fans go crazy for, because at this point, you know, even though we were the first to do it, but at this point there's probably, you know, 10 different versions of Mario and the orchestra, or Zelda doing an orchestra, or Final Fantasy orchestra, you know. So to be able to kind of do these kind of, you know, more granular, smaller games is really cool. And already we've started talking about level 5 and getting into things like, you know, Phoenix Wright and Earthbound, Mother, Okami, and Devil May Cry, and Katamari Damacy, and, you know, kind of doing all these, you know, Legend and Secret of Mana. So many great things out there that we still haven't, you know, touched on, that are out there. That, so, you know, every year we'll get, you know, we kind of get more and more into the hardcore stuff, which I think people love the most. You know, it's funny, I never really feel like I ever made a transition, because my 2 greatest loves growing up were always video games and music. And I can remember when I was 10 years old, and this is in the late 70s, I'm dating myself, but when I was 10 years old, I used to go down to the local arcade. I'd take my dad's big cassette player, it was like this big, you had to put in like 12D batteries. And I'd take it down to the arcade and I'd record all my favorite video game music from the arcade. You know, it's like Space Invaders and Missile Command and, you know, Pac-Man, I think it just come out, and Asteroids. And I would take all that music and the sounds, and then I'd come home and I'd record all my favorite video game systems, like my Intellivision and my Atari 2600 and, you know, at my Apple II, you know, I had all these things. And I would splice the cassette together, you know, because I didn't want to like degenerate it by recording it onto a second tape. So I'd sit there and I'd splice the tape together, the cassette tape. I'd pull it out and I'd get this thing and I'd put it all together. And then I'd invite my neighborhood friends over, and I'd put on a video game concert. I'd play the cassette back. I would put my favorite video games on the TV behind me, and I would jump up in front and play along guitar or piano with the cassette, playing along, and I'd charge my friends like you know, a nickel. So I was kind of, you know, still trying to make money. And so that was when I was 10 years old, you know. So I never feel like even the music that I created when I was in bands in the 80s kind of sounded like video game music, you know. So in fact, one of the bands that I was in, one of the biggest bands I was in, we were called Diamonds in the Rough. And there's footage on YouTube, and this is in the early 80s. So, you know, I had the mullet going and the keyboard tie. It was pretty much a disaster. But But you can see the music that I wrote and that we wrote as a band together during that time made it onto one of the first games I worked on called The Terminator. And The Terminator on the Sega CD was the very first video game to ever use a live guitar, ever. And so, so I kind of took that music and I updated it. So, you know, and that was like maybe 5 or 6 years after the band had written it, and then I kind of did instrumental versions of them. So, yeah, you know, it's really, I never feel like I transitioned. I always, you know, I was always into symphonic music. You know, when I was 10 years old, Star Wars came out in 1977. And there it is. It's like my E.T. Star Wars kind of, you know, crossover. But when I heard that music in Star Wars, it was really the first time that I paid attention to symphonic music, you know, because I kind of come from a rock and roll background, a rock and roll family, you know, so I was always growing up listening to Aerosmith and, you know, Pink Floyd and Van Halen and Led Zeppelin, Beatles, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis. And, but then when I heard Star Wars and I heard that music, it was like the symphony. It was like, wow, what, you know, what is this? And I remember going down to the library when I was 10 years old. Went to the library and I was trying to look up articles because, you know, we didn't have the internet back then. I looked up interviews with this guy, John Williams, you know, because I waited to the end of the thing to see who did the music. John Williams, who's this John Williams guy? And he had done the music for Jaws, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And he had done Gilligan's Island as well. And so I'm reading all about John Williams, and he talked about Beethoven and Mozart, you know, being his inspirations and things growing up. So I'm like, well, who are these guys? You know, let me listen. I'd heard the name Beethoven before, but I didn't really know the music. So again, at the library, I checked out, you know, back then you could listen to albums. So, you know, I got the Beethoven's Greatest Hit album. And I remember taking it home and putting it on, and it changed my life. You know, when I heard the music, it was like life-changing. It was interesting though, the first time I heard it, one of the first things I thought of was, hey, this is the music from Bugs Bunny. Like Warner Brothers cartoons, you know, because I had heard it. Some of the Warner Brothers cartoons would use classical music, you know, in the thing. So isn't it interesting? Because of pop culture, because of movies and TV, cartoons, that's what got me into becoming a composer. You know, when I would listen to Beethoven, I would listen because I play by ear. I don't know how to read music. I never went to school for music. So I would listen and then I would figure things out on the piano. And so when I listened to like Beethoven's Ninth, for example, and you listen to what the strings are doing, you know, the different elements of the strings and the basses and the woodwinds and how they're interacting with the choir and it's everything about it. It's, you know, I mean, it's just mind-blowing when you pick it all apart. And I would learn each part on the piano, and that kind of, you know, taught me chord structures and you know, different ways of doing things. So when people say, who do you study under? Who did you study under? I always tell them Beethoven, because that's what I listened to, and John Williams, and you know, who'd you study under for guitar? I say Eddie Van Halen, you know, because I would listen to his albums and I'd, you know, kind of imitate it, but I would learn, I'd pay attention. I wouldn't just learn the riff, I'd try to break it down and understand, you know, why they did certain things. So it's interesting, like I said, pop culture got me into composing for symphonies and orchestras and into other instruments. And we're seeing the same exact thing happen now 30 years later with Video Games Live, where I'll get emails and Facebook messages and from parents saying, you know, we brought our kids to your show last night. We didn't know what to expect, but oh my gosh, it was so amazing. But hey, I just wanted to let you know we were sitting around the breakfast table this morning and my 8-year-old daughter wants to start taking violin lessons so that she can learn the music to Kingdom Hearts or Zelda or something like that. So there you say, the same thing that happened to me, we're seeing happen 30 years later with video games. Yeah, for people who are interested in getting into video game music and audio in general for video games, sound design, voiceovers, whatever, there's a great website. It's a non-profit organization. It's called the Game Audio Network Guild. That spells out gang. And so the website is audiogang.org. And that's a non-profit organization that I founded over 13 years ago that has over 2,500 game composers from around the world, representing 30 countries. I mean, everybody's in it. But it's also, you know, we put out all the information for people who are looking to get into the video game industry as well. So I would say to people, join Gang. That's a very important one. The second thing is the Game Developers Conference. Go there, because it's all about networking, right? Not the most talented person doesn't always get the job, you know, but the person who can sell themselves the best and who can market themselves the best and who can network the best. And so getting to meet those people in the industry is the best thing you can do. And the industry, really the entire industry, goes to the Game Developers Conference every March in San Francisco. The website is GDConf, so GDCONF.com. Another good thing is to join the International Game Developers Association, which is another non-profit organization, IGDA.org. But there's also some great books. Great books. If you go on Amazon and you just type in game audio, you'll get 4 or 5 books that people have written. My favorite is probably The Complete Guide to Game Audio by Aaron Marks. You know, so for 20 bucks or whatever, you know, it's like this thick, and it's, you know, it has everything in it. So yeah. Oh, another great thing, one more great website for the people who put on the Game Developers Conference is a great website called gamasutra.com. And that's really for the whole industry. And by the way, these tips that I'm giving, aside from Audio Gang, all of them can be for anyone in the industry, whether you're a designer, programmer, artist. Go to the Game Developers Conference. Join the International Game Developers Association. Go on gamasutra.com and read all the articles and interviews. And it's a really amazing website. It literally lists every single game developer in the world. So you can put in wherever you're from, right? Oh, Vienna, Austria. And it'll list all of the game developers in the area. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so, you know, I'm on the road a lot. So I bring my DS with me a lot and my PSP. You know, I'm not a huge PC gamer, I'll admit. I love watching people play. I'm just afraid of getting sucked into World of Warcraft or League of Legends and like my life would just stop for 6 months. I'm like an addictive personality when it comes to games, so I'm afraid to play them. But I love watching the cinematics. I love, you know, I know a lot about them. Of course, I know a lot about the music. So when I'm on the road, you know, like we were just in a bus last night from, we played Munich, Germany, and so we were on a bus and it had an Xbox 360 in it, got some Call of Duty in, you know. So, but being on the road, it's typically my DS and my PSP. When I'm at home, again, I'll admit I'll tell you, my favorite games that I like to play, Shadow of the Colossus, Eco, Metal Gear Solid, Uncharted, The Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption. These are some of my favorite games. Now, most of those games appear on the PlayStation, exclusives, God of War. And so I don't consider myself a fanboy of any system, but the games that I like the most seem to be exclusive on the PlayStation. So, you know, if I had to pick a system, you know, PlayStation would probably be my favorite. Although Xbox Live, from an online standpoint, I think is the best online system out there. Nintendo's kind of disappointed me the last couple of years. You know, that's my honest answer. I love Mario, I love Zelda, and I guess I hold them to a higher standard. So when they come out with stuff like the Wii U, I don't know, I'm like, you know, come on, where's the new Zelda, where's the new Mario? You can do better. Yeah, I kind of went from violence to sexism. You know, what's interesting is when you go to a video games live, you'll see about 40% of the audience tonight will be female. I look around this room, all the journalists here, there's just as many girls as there is guys, right? So I think it's a fallacy to say that, you know, and we're selling ourselves short as an industry when we say that, oh, video games are just for teenage boys. You know, now, are some of the best-selling games targeted more towards males, maybe like a Call of Duty or something like that? Yeah, probably, but you know, boys like to blow shit up, and girls like to create, you know, and I find myself liking games that females are more attracted to. Games like Kingdom Hearts or Shadow of the Colossus. Puzzle games, solving games, thing where you have to use your mind and you're creating things, The Sims, you know, stuff like that. And so, but yeah, boys just like blowing stuff up. Not to say there aren't some amazing female Halo players out there that can frag my ass like crazy, but I think it, you know, but if you look at the statistics, 49% of gamers now are female. And that includes online and mobile phone and this and that. So it's really 50-50, right? I love to see more females creating games because I think they bring a different mentality to things. Again, girls like to create, boys like to destroy. And sex sells. I'm a fan of the Old West. You know, so Red Dead Redemption would be pretty darn fun, I think, you know, to really live that. But then again, I'm a short Italian, so that's kind of Mario. It's a short Italian. Actually, you know what? You want to know one of my favorite video game characters? And it's not because of sex or anything, but Lara Croft. I thought Lara Croft, I'm a huge fan of Lara Croft, the comic books, the character. I'm also a fan of Danger Girl, which is another, it's kind of a comic book, you know, series. But I just thought it was so cool when Lara Croft came around. Not only was it one of the first, you know, 3D games and stuff, but I just think, you know, showing women in that role, that kind of strong leader role, was so cool to me. And it's not just because she had big boobs, you know. Like I said, it was to see, you know. I mean, I even enjoyed the movies, you know. Didn't love them, but they were pretty good. And I really like the comic book actually, the comic series from Top Cow. But yeah, it's one of my favorite characters, I think, and especially I like how they kind of redid her recently as well too, made her more real as opposed to like a Barbie doll, you know. So even the newer Lara Croft stuff, I really dig a lot. Yeah, I love the game.